Unanimous consent, the quorum be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Madam President, let me start by wishing Jewish Americans everywhere a happy start to Hanukkah. I celebrated the first night with my family up in New York, and I hope my colleagues who observe Hanukkah were able to do the same. The story of Hanukkah is among many things a story of perseverance in the face of unspeakable hatred. It's also a lesson that hits home this year for many Jewish Americans targeted recently by anti-Semitism. After decades of hard work, it is terrifying to see today that anti-Semitism is on the rise in America. We must do everything we can to stomp it down. No matter what our faiths may be, of course, I urge all Americans of goodwill to take a stand against the forces of bigotry and intolerance. There are many out there who are trying to use their platforms to make anti-Semitism more acceptable in our country, and we must oppose them at every turn. I have faith that the forces of intolerance will lose in the end, just as they did in the days of Hanukkah, when Judah Maccabee led the Jewish people against an oppressive majority. But the fight is long, and all of us must do our part. So as we continue observing the Festival of Lights, I say to colleagues and to Jewish Americans across the country, Chag Sameach, a happy holiday. And thank God that in this country, freedom of religion and tolerance is part of our watchword, unlike it was in the old days of Judah Maccabee. On the Omni, appropriators are racing around the clock to finish the last major item on our to-do list for 2022, an omnibus package that will keep the government funded into next fall. It was another extremely busy weekend for appropriators, the members and their staffs. I was on the phone all day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Every 10 minutes, another call with my colleagues, with the committees, and my staff, my great staff who hardly slept this weekend to help finalize a deal. Sunday night was the first night of Hanukkah, but unfortunately I had to spend 75% of that night on the phone with my colleagues and staff. My family, of course, was very understanding, and I appreciate that. Sleep has been hard to come by for many who are part of the appropriations process. And while the world enjoyed a truly heart-stomping World Cup final, staff were on the clock working diligently to keep our government funded. I thank all of them for their great work. Much of my focus today, tonight, and tomorrow will remain on getting the omnibus done. Despite having a little more work to do, the omnibus continues heading in the right direction. We must wrap the whole process up and vote on final passage before the end of the week. It won't be easy, but we are working hard so we can get it done before the end of the week and be with our families for Christmas. Once the omnibus comes before the Senate, I'm confident that both sides will find things in it they can enthusiastically support. We all know the omnibus will be the best way to ensure kids, our veterans, our small businesses, and our military continue to have full access to vital services and programs they depend on. It's not going to be everything anybody wanted, that's for sure, but it's far preferable to a CR, which will leave the country high and dry, and it's certainly preferable to a government shutdown. The omnibus will also allow the Senate to pass the Electoral Count Act into law, which my colleagues on the Rules Committee, Senators Klobuchar and Blunt, have done great work on. And finalizing the omnibus is critical, absolutely critical, for supporting our friends in Ukraine and for fully implementing bipartisan bills like CHIPS and science and the PACT Act and more. So just as both parties cooperated on bipartisan achievements like CHIPS, gun safety, veterans benefits, respect for marriage, and so much more, let's finish this session by passing an omnibus by working together in good faith. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.